as soon as the shooting comes out, who jumps out the woodwork first but Fat Albert's finest, Tim Scott. Bleeding Gums Murphy. Scratching when he don't itch and laughing when he not tickled. Tim Scott jumps out the gate, sends his tweets. Let's be clear. This was an assassination attempt aided and abetted by the radical left and corporate media, incessantly calling Trump a threat to democracy, fascist, or worse. So Tim Scott is making the case, as a lot of people have, that somehow Democrats, or the radical left, even more, not just Democrats, I ain't no Democrat, but I'm part of the so-called radical left, that we somehow created this climate by calling Trump a threat to democracy or fascist or worse. First of all, Tim Scott, shut up. Come on. Republicans, Democrats, every one of those corporate political parties calls the other one the threat to democracy. When they talk about the radical leftists, even in this tweet, the radical left, you say they're radical because they're going to disrupt American democracy. When you talk about the squad, when you talk about the Marxist agenda, when you talk about critical race theory, when you talk about all of this stuff, you're calling for what? You're calling for America to pay attention to how the left is destroying America and is a threat. So knock it off. J.D. Vance. He wasn't vice president yet, but he was bucking for that spot with this tweet. He says, today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. Yes! You got it right, JD. That Yale degree's kicking in. He is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. He said that rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. See, y'all said that stuff before you knew the guy who did the shooting was a Republican. Now, he might be a Republican that don't rock with Trump. Clearly, he don't rock with Trump. People who rock with me don't shoot at me. But it's not the left. He's not listening to the left-wing discourse. He didn't like left-wing discourse. The guy is a registered Republican, registered Republican, and his mom and them registered Republicans, and they're libertarians too. Come on, knock it off, J.D. Vance. Be honest. But he says further, J.D. says that rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Now you're asserting causality, J.D. Vance. You're trying to say that it led directly, that the Democrats said something, and it caused that 20-year-old Republican boy to climb a ladder and shoot at Donald Trump? Have you considered that this boy shot at Donald Trump because he has mental health issues? Because he has easy access to a weapon, that it's not his race, it's not his gender, it's not his ethnicity, it's not his religion, he might just not be well. And when you have people who aren't well being influenced by these dangerous rhetorics on both sides, things like this happen. But don't act like somehow we can't call Donald Trump an authoritarian. Donald Trump said that as soon as he's elected, he is going to basically suspend the Constitution for a few days. What that sound like? Donald Trump rose to power by telling the mass majority of the American public that there's an enemy over there, the Mexican, the immigrant, the undocumented, the whatever. And that they're the reason why people's lives suck. And that he, despite being a billionaire, can somehow identify with the common man, quote unquote, that he can transform the nation, and that at times it may look messy and not exactly what the Constitution says and not what the rules say, but somehow he'll still get you a better life than you have. They call that authoritarianism. They call that populist authoritarianism and populist fascism. So we call it what it is, JD. But Republicans want to go dig up old Joe Biden tweets where he said, let's put Trump in the bullseye. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump has talked about wishing that police had hit suspects one more time before they put him in the squad car. He's talked about the violence of people in Charlottesville being okay because they're fine people. He has endorsed violence all around the world. He has justified and fomented violence on January 6th in an insurrection. Let's not act like suddenly Republicans' hands are clean. And this isn't whataboutism. I'm not saying, well, they do it too. I'm saying that there is a legitimate conversation to be had about American political rhetoric, but it isn't Democrats that need to be on the business end of that conversation. It's everybody. But instead of saying maybe that Republican that climbed the fence, maybe that Republican that got access to a weapon, maybe that Republican who's donating to Republican causes, maybe that Republican that believes Republican talking points, that maybe he might have been influenced by Republicans. That ain't even a difficult one, y'all. Come on, come on, come on. But Republicans don't want to have that conversation because then they'd have to be accountable for their own policy choices. Then they'd have to be accountable for their own political rhetoric. So instead, they want to exploit the problem. They want to misdirect us, and they want to make us believe that this is a democratic crisis and not a crisis of American political culture. And it's not just Republicans. Let's move on. I'm talking about Democrats too. Because Democrats, they somehow felt like they had to make their presence felt. Can we talk about the Democrats, please, y'all? Because Democrats are just as annoying. When something bad happens to a Republican, even somebody who deserves it, I'm not talking about Donald Trump right now, I'm speaking in general terms. Democrats feel the need to virtue signal, right? If a prominent Republican dies, of natural cause at the age of 200, they're still going to, my thoughts are with them, and they're a true patriot, and blah, 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 blah. No, they were human garbage. We don't have to pretend that they were not. Lindsey Graham's going to die one day. Mitch McConnell's going to die one day. We don't have to pretend that they were nice people on the day they die. We can say they were human garbage, or we can say nothing. But Democrats, I need y'all to also be accountable for this. I need y'all to also be accountable for this. Because here's what Democrats did. Democrats talked, as soon as Donald Trump was executed, as soon as there was an attempt, so Republicans, of course, exploited